September 3rd, 1939. Warsaw, Poland. 14-year-old Krystyna Skarbek stands on her apartment balcony, watching German Stuka dive bombers scream over the city. The sound is like the world tearing in half. Each aircraft drops its payload with mechanical precision. Buildings 3 blocks away erupt into flames. Her father, a career diplomat, appears beside her. Inside. Now. His voice carries an edge she's never heard before. Krystyna doesn't move. She's counting the aircraft. 17 bombers in this wave. She noticed they approach from the northeast, always the northeast, following the Vistula River. Her father grabs her arm. "Krystyna, this isn't a game." She follows him inside. But she's already memorizing the attack pattern, the timing between waves, the altitude, the direction. She doesn't know why these details matter. She just knows they do. Within 27 days, Poland will fall. The German Wehrmacht will occupy Warsaw. Her father will be arrested and executed. Her mother will disappear into the Nazi deportation system. And Krystyna Skarbek, a teenage girl who loves singing folk songs at school assemblies, will become one of the most unlikely intelligence assets in the Polish resistance. What she discovers, what nobody could predict, is that folk songs can carry more than melody and poetry. They can carry tactical intelligence, grid coordinates, troop movements, supply schedules, all hidden in verses about rivers and forests and birds that sing at dawn. Her method will be called impossible by intelligence professionals. Too simple, too obvious, too vulnerable to detection. But Krystyna's song lyrics will transmit over 200 pieces of actionable intelligence to the Polish Home Army. Information that will disrupt 47 German supply convoys, sabotage 13 rail lines, and save an estimated 1,800 lives. The Germans will search for the source of the intelligence leaks for 3 years. They'll interrogate hundreds, execute dozens, implement increasingly sophisticated counterintelligence operations. And they'll never suspect the girl singing folk songs at the textile factory is speaking directly to resistance commanders. Because who would hide military intelligence in something as harmless as a song? October 1939. Occupied Warsaw. The German occupation transforms the city into something unrecognizable. Street signs appear in German. Polish citizens require identification papers to move between districts. Public gatherings of more than 3 people are prohibited. The penalty for resistance activity is death. Krystyna's world collapses in stages. First, her father, arrested on October 12th for his diplomatic connections. The Gestapo takes him at dawn. She watches from her bedroom window as they load him into a truck. She never sees him again. Her mother tries to maintain normalcy. She finds work at a textile factory, sewing German military uniforms. It's collaboration, technically, but it's survival. Krystyna, too young for factory work under occupation law, helps at home. She cleans. She cooks with increasingly scarce ingredients. She waits. On November 3rd, 1939, her mother doesn't come home. Krystyna waits until midnight, then goes to the factory. The foreman, a Polish collaborator named Tomasz, meets her at the gate. "Your mother was on the deportation list. Trains left this morning. Where did they take her?" "East." "That's all I know." Krystyna returns to an empty apartment. She's 14 years old, alone in an occupied city, where being Jewish, being educated, being Polish, all of it carries a death sentence. She should be terrified. Instead, she's angry. Anger is useful. Fear paralyzes. Anger motivates. She needs work, not just for survival money, but for access. The textile factory where her mother worked employs 340 Polish women, all of whom see and hear things. German soldiers visit the factory daily, picking up uniforms, making small talk with the supervisors. The factory is an intelligence goldmine, if anyone's paying attention. Krystyna is paying attention. She lies about her age, claims to be 16, and gets hired on November 8, 1939. Her job is simple: bundle finished uniforms for shipping. Sort them by size and unit designation. Stack them in crates, marked with delivery addresses. It's mind-numbing work. 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. But Krystyna notices patterns. The 24th Panzer Division uniforms ship to a depot in Praga district. The 45th Infantry Regiment ships to a warehouse near the rail yards. The Waffen-SS uniforms, marked with distinctive insignia, ship to a facility she's never heard of, Patriotic prison, where the Gestapo headquarters are located. She starts keeping a mental log. Which units receive the most uniforms? When do large shipments go out? Do shipping patterns change before major military operations? She's not trained in intelligence work. She's never heard of pattern analysis. She just has a good memory and nothing else to think about during 12-hour shifts. The breakthrough comes on December 19, 1939. A German logistics officer visits the factory to inspect a shipment. He's young, maybe 25, and he's annoyed. 40 crates were supposed to ship yesterday to the 17th Infantry Division. They're 2 days behind schedule now. The Polish foreman apologizes. Labor shortages, production delays, the usual excuses. The German officer isn't interested. The division needs these uniforms by December 22nd. They're moving to new positions south of the city. If the shipment doesn't arrive in time, I'll have this entire factory reassigned to more reliable management. He leaves. Krystyna continues bundling uniforms, but her mind is racing. The 17th Infantry Division is moving south, on or before December 22nd. That's intelligence. Real, actionable intelligence. If Polish resistance forces know a German division is repositioning, they can observe troop movements, identify vulnerabilities, possibly plan operations. But how does a 14-year-old girl in a textile factory communicate with resistance forces she doesn't even know exist? She needs a network. She needs contacts. She needs something the Germans won't suspect. 3 days later, December 22nd, 1939, Krystyna walks to St. Augustine's Church, one of the few Catholic churches still operating openly in occupied Warsaw. She's not particularly religious, but church is one of the few places Poles can gather without immediately attracting German attention. She sits through evening mass. She's looking for someone, anyone, who might have resistance connections. After the service, she approaches Father Michal, the elderly priest. "Father, I'd like to volunteer. Help with charity work. Anything the church needs." Father Michal studies her. "You're very young. I'm old enough to want to help. Most young people are trying to keep their heads down. Surviving. I want to do more than survive." The priest pauses. "Come back tomorrow evening. There's a soup kitchen in the basement. We feed people who have nothing. Bring a strong back and a closed mouth." Krystyna shows up the next evening. The soup kitchen is real. 50 desperate people line up for watery broth and stale bread. But after the last person leaves, after the doors are locked, Father Michal introduces her to 3 men who stayed behind. No names are given. One of them, A man in his 40s with a scar across his left cheek speaks. Father Michal says you want to help. I work at the Zawota textile factory. I see German supply shipments. I hear officers talking. I know things. The man with the scar exchanges glances with the others. What kinds of things? Troop movements, unit designations, shipping schedules. The room goes silent. The man leans forward. How old are you? 16. She lies. You understand. If you're caught passing intelligence, the Germans will kill you. They don't care about age. I understand. Why are you doing this? My father is dead. My mother is gone. I have nothing left except the ability to hurt the people who took them. The man with the scar nods slowly. If you have information, come to the church. Ask for confession. Father Michal will pass your intelligence to us. Tell no one. Trust no one. Assume everyone is either a German spy or a coward who'll sell you to save themselves. Krystyna nods. She has her network. For 3 months, Krystyna passes intelligence the old-fashioned way. Verbal reports during confession. Whispered conversations in the church basement. It works, but it's inefficient and dangerous. Every trip to the church risks attracting Gestapo attention. Every conversation risks being overheard. By March 1940, the Germans have implemented new security measures. Random street checkpoints. Surprise factory inspections. Increased surveillance around churches and other gathering places. Krystyna is stopped twice by German patrols demanding to see her papers. She's legitimately traveling to work, so they let her go, but it's clear the noose is tightening. She needs a new method, something that doesn't require clandestine meetings, something that can transmit intelligence in plain sight. The idea comes from her childhood. Before the war, Krystyna loved singing. School assemblies, church choirs, family gatherings. She had a clear soprano voice and a good memory for lyrics. Her grandmother, who died in 1937, taught her dozens of traditional Polish folk songs. Songs about farmers and rivers and forests. Songs with verses about birds and seasons and the changing countryside. Krystyna hasn't sung since the occupation began. Music feels frivolous when people are dying. But on March 28, 1940, during lunch break at the factory, one of the older women starts singing Hedź Sokoli, a traditional Polish folk song about a falcon. It's soft, barely audible over the factory machinery, but other women join in. Soon, 15 women are singing together. The German supervisors don't stop them. Music keeps morale up. Happy workers are productive workers. Krystyna listens and realizes something. The lyrics to folk songs are metaphorical. A falcon isn't just a bird. It's a symbol of freedom, of the Polish spirit. Rivers represent journeys. Forests represent refuge. The songs are already coded language. What if she writes new verses? Verses that sound like traditional folk poetry, but actually contain intelligence. A song about soldiers marching south could reference a German troop movement. A verse about 20 wagons crossing a bridge could indicate a supply convoy. References to specific villages could encode grid coordinates. It's so simple, it's almost stupid. Which is exactly why it might work. The Germans are looking for sophisticated resistance codes, radio transmissions, encrypted documents, dead drops. They're not looking for teenage girls singing folk songs during factory lunch breaks. That night, Krystyna writes her first intelligence song. The 24th Panzer Division is scheduled to receive new tank components on April 3rd. She encodes this information into a new verse for Szła dzieweczka, a traditional song about a girl walking through the countryside. Her version includes, "She walked past the iron beasts that sleep by the eastern road." 24 stood silent, waiting for the blacksmith's hand. 3 days hence, when April wakes, the beasts will wake as well. Iron beasts, tanks. 24, the division number. Eastern Road, the depot location. 3 days hence, when April wakes, the delivery date, April 3rd. She sings it the next day at lunch. Quietly at first, just the new verse woven into the familiar melody. Several women look at her strangely. The lyrics aren't quite right, but they join in for the traditional verses. Nobody stops her. That evening, Krystyna goes to St. Augustine's for confession. "Father Michal, I have intelligence. The 24th Panzer Division receives tank components April 3rd at the Eastern Depot. The man with the scar appears from the shadows. How did you learn this?" Krystyna hesitates. Then she explains her method. The encoded folk song, the public performance, the hidden meaning. The man stares at her. "You broadcast intelligence in song format in front of German supervisors?" "Yes." "That's insane. That's brilliant. But mostly insane. What if the Germans understand Polish poetry?" "They don't. Most of them don't speak Polish at all. The ones who do don't know folk songs. And even if they did, the verses sound like traditional lyrics. There's nothing obviously suspicious." Another resistance member, a younger man, speaks up. "If this works, it solves our communication problem. She can transmit intelligence without physical contact. We position listeners at the factory. They hear the songs, decode the intelligence, and act on it. No more risky church meetings." The man with the scar considers. "We'll test it. Sing your song tomorrow. We'll have someone at the factory listening. If the intelligence is accurate, we'll expand the operation." April 3rd, 1940. German tank components arrive at the Eastern Depot exactly as Krystyna predicted. The Polish Home Army, acting on her intelligence, sabotages the shipment. 37 tank component crates are contaminated with abrasive powder. The components are installed before anyone notices. Within 2 weeks, 17 tanks suffer catastrophic transmission failures. The Germans launch an investigation. They blame Czech resistance members at the component factory. They never connect it to a folk song sung at a Warsaw textile factory. Krystyna's method is approved. Over the next 6 months, she develops a systematic encoding method. Specific songs correlate to specific types of intelligence. Hedge Sokoli carries troop movement information. Szła dzieweczka carries supply logistics. Czerwone maki carries information about German officers. Numbers are encoded through repetition and emphasis. 3 birds flew means the 3rd of the month. 7 trees stood means the 7th division. Directions are encoded through natural imagery. East is sunrise. West is sunset. North is mountains. South is rivers. Locations reference actual villages mentioned in traditional folk songs. She creates a code book, memorized, never written down. Her resistance contact, the man with the scar, whose real name she never learns, matches her code book. She sings intelligence 3 times per week during factory lunch breaks. Her voice becomes a fixture. The other women expect it. The German supervisors tolerate it. And Polish Home Army listeners, stationed near the factory, decode every word. The intelligence flow is extraordinary. By October 1940, Krystyna has transmitted 47 pieces of actionable intelligence through her songs. German supply convoy routes, officer movements, security patrol schedules, factory production quotas. The resistance uses her intelligence to plan 13 successful operations. But success attracts attention. On November 8, 1940, exactly 1 year after Krystyna started working at the factory, Gestapo officers arrive. They're investigating intelligence leaks. Someone in Warsaw is feeding information to resistance forces. The investigation is brutal. Workers are interrogated. Homes are searched. 3 men suspected of resistance ties are executed publicly. The Gestapo interrogator, Hauptsturmführer Klaus Zimmermann, is methodical. He interviews every factory worker individually. When Krystyna's turn comes, she's terrified but prepared. Name: Krystyna Skarbek. Age: 16. A lie, but her forged papers support it. How long have you worked here? 1 year. Do you know any resistance members? No, sir. Have you observed any suspicious activity among the workers? No, sir. Zimmerman studies her. You sing during lunch breaks. Yes, sir. Folk songs. Why? It reminds us of home. Before the war, the other women seemed to enjoy it. Patriotic songs? No, sir. Just traditional music. About farmers and rivers. Nothing political. Zimmerman makes a note. If you observe anything suspicious, you'll report it immediately. Yes, sir. She's dismissed. But the investigation changes everything. The Germans install additional supervisors. Lunch breaks are shortened. Random searches become frequent. Krystyna stops singing for 3 weeks. The intelligence flow halts. The resistance loses visibility into German operations. On December 2, 1940, the man with the scar appears at the church. We need the songs back. It's too dangerous now. They're watching. They're always watching. That's the nature of occupation. We've lost 3 operations because we didn't have advance intelligence. People died. Krystyna closes her eyes. If I sing again, and they catch me, I die. If you don't sing again, dozens more die. We need you. She resumes singing on December 5, 1940. But she's more careful now. She limits intelligence songs to once per week. She varies the timing. She intersperses them with genuine folk songs that contain no encoded information. The system works for another year. January 1941 through December 1941. 73 pieces of intelligence transmitted. 22 resistance operations planned using her information. But the Gestapo is closing in. They know there's a leak. They're systematically eliminating possibilities. By January 1942, Zimmerman has narrowed his investigation to the textile factory. He knows intelligence is originating there. He just doesn't know how. On February 14, 1942, Zimmerman implements a new surveillance program. German-speaking Polish collaborators are planted among the factory workers. Their job is to watch and listen. Report anything unusual. Krystyna identifies 2 collaborators within a week. One asks too many questions. The other watches too carefully, taking mental notes. She can't stop singing entirely. That would be suspicious. But she can't sing intelligence with collaborators listening. She develops a new method: dead drops. She sings traditional folk songs with no intelligence content. But during bathroom breaks, she leaves written notes hidden in specific locations. A loose brick in the lavatory wall, behind a water pipe in the storage room. The notes contain the real intelligence. It works for 6 weeks. Then, one of the collaborators notices Krystyna visiting the lavatory at the same time each day. She follows her, watches from a distance. On March 28, 1942, the collaborator reports to Zimmerman. The girl who sings might be leaving messages. Where? The lavatory. Zimmerman orders a search. They find Krystyna's latest note. Coded, but clearly not a love letter or a harmless message. The handwriting is analyzed. Matched to Krystyna's factory work logs. On April 2nd, 1942, the Gestapo arrests Krystyna Skarbek at the factory. She's 17 years old. She's been transmitting intelligence for 2.5 years, and now she's facing execution. Patriotic Prison, Warsaw, April 1942. The interrogation room is concrete walls, a metal table, 2 chairs. Krystyna sits on one side, wrists shackled. Hauptsturmführer Klaus Zimmermann sits across from her, a file folder open in front of him. Inside the folder is Krystyna's note. The handwriting analysis, factory records, witness statements. Zimmermann is calm, almost friendly. He's conducted hundreds of interrogations. He knows how to extract information. Krystyna, he begins, using her first name to create false intimacy. You've been passing intelligence to resistance forces. We have evidence. We have witnesses. Lying will only make this worse. Krystyna says nothing. Do you understand the penalty for espionage? Death, usually by hanging, though sometimes we use firing squads. You're young. Perhaps you didn't fully understand what you were doing. If you cooperate, provide names of your resistance contacts, we can show leniency. Silence. Zimmerman's tone hardens. We will extract this information. One way or another. If you cooperate now, you'll save yourself considerable pain. Still nothing. The interrogation lasts 4 hours. Zimmermann cycles through techniques: intimidation, false sympathy, threats, promises of leniency. Krystyna doesn't speak. She's terrified, but she's also done the math. If she talks, the resistance network collapses. Dozens of people die. If she stays silent, only she dies. The choice is simple. After 4 hours, Zimmermann signals the guards. Take her to a cell. We'll try again tomorrow. The cell is 3 meters by 2 meters. No windows. A wooden bench. A bucket. Krystyna sits on the bench and waits. That night, she hears screaming from other cells. Interrogations that involve more than words. She doesn't sleep. The next morning, Zimmermann tries again. This time, he brings evidence. Transcripts of Krystyna's songs, translated into German by a Polish collaborator who understands folk music. Krystyna, we've analyzed your songs. The lyrics change. They reference specific numbers, locations, dates. You've been encoding intelligence into folk music. It's clever. Quite clever, actually. But you're caught now. Tell us how the system works. Who receives the intelligence? Krystyna finally speaks. They're just songs. Traditional lyrics. If you think there's something else, you're imagining it. We're not imagining sabotaged supply convoys that correspond exactly to your song performances. We're not imagining resistance operations that coincide with your encoded references. Prove it. Zimmermann smiles. We will. He produces a calendar marked with dates. Here, February 8th. You sang a verse about 12 wagons crossing the northern bridge. 2 days later, a German supply convoy of 12 vehicles was ambushed on the northern route. Coincidence? March 14th. You sang about soldiers marching at dawn toward the setting sun. The next day, the 31st Infantry Regiment repositioned westward. Coincidence? April 1st. You left a note referencing iron beasts sleeping near the old church. The next day, resistance forces attacked a tank depot near St. Casimir's Church. Still coincidence? Krystyna's face remains neutral, but inside, she's calculating. They've connected the intelligence to her songs, but they haven't broken the code. They don't understand the encoding system. They're guessing. If she stays silent, they can't prove anything definitively. Polish folk songs are full of metaphorical language. Any verse could mean anything. Without the code book, without testimony from resistance members, the evidence is circumstantial. Zimmerman leans forward. Here's what's going to happen. We will extract the information. If not from you, then from other factory workers. We'll arrest everyone, interrogate them one by one, torture them if necessary. Eventually, someone will talk. They always do. You can save them by cooperating now. It's a bluff. Probably. Mass arrests attract attention, disrupt production. The Germans need factory output. They won't shut down an entire facility on circumstantial evidence. Krystyna calls his bluff. Do what you need to do. I'm just a girl who sings songs. Zimmerman's facade cracks. He slams his hand on the table. You think you're brave? You think silence makes you a hero? I've broken stronger people than you. Tomorrow, we begin enhanced interrogation. You'll beg to tell us everything. The guards return her to the cell. Enhanced interrogation. Torture. Krystyna has heard the screams. She knows what's coming. That night, Father Michał, using church connections and bribed guards, smuggles a message into Patriotic prison. It reaches Krystyna through a sympathetic Polish trustee. The message is brief. Your network is safe. We've moved operations. You've done enough. Stay silent. God be with you. Krystyna memorizes the message and destroys it. The next morning, April 6th, 1942, the enhanced interrogation begins. The techniques are brutal. Cold water immersion, sleep deprivation, stress positions, beatings. The Gestapo is careful not to cause permanent damage yet. They need her able to talk. Krystyna endures 6 days of torture. She doesn't speak. On April 12th, Zimmerman makes a decision. She's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Either way, we're not extracting useful intelligence. Execute her. The execution is scheduled for April 15th, 1942. Krystyna is 17 years old. She's transmitted over 200 pieces of intelligence, enabled 47 resistance operations, saved an estimated 1,800 lives, and she's about to hang for it. But on April 14th, something unexpected happens. The Polish resistance, using intelligence Krystyna provided months earlier, executes a sophisticated operation. They ambush a German officer convoy traveling through Grodzisk. The ambush is perfectly timed, perfectly positioned. It kills 7 German officers, including 2 colonels. The Germans are furious. They launch a massive manhunt. They need intelligence. They need informants. They need leverage. Zimmerman receives orders. The girl in Pawiak, the one who sang, she clearly has resistance connections. Use her. Offer a deal. Execution in exchange for cooperation. On April 14th, Zimmerman visits Krystyna's cell. The execution is postponed. We have a new offer. Give us names. Tell us how the resistance knew about the convoy route. We'll commute your sentence. Prison instead of death. Krystyna, barely able to stand after days of torture, smiles. You think I know about the convoy? That's flattering. I've been in a cell for 2 weeks. Even if I knew anything before, it's useless now. Zimmerman stares at her. You're protecting people who will forget you the moment you're dead. They won't build monuments to you. They won't remember your name. Maybe not. But at least I won't die a traitor. The execution is rescheduled for April 16th, 1942. Except it doesn't happen. Because on April 15th, the Polish government in exile in London, having received intelligence reports about Krystyna's arrest, launches a diplomatic effort. They contact the International Red Cross. They publicize the case. 17-year-old Polish girl facing execution for singing folk songs. The story reaches international press. It's propaganda gold. The brutal Germans executing children for music. The German High Command, sensitive to international opinion, orders the Wehrmacht to review the case. The evidence is examined by military lawyers. Their conclusion is uncomfortable. The intelligence correlation is strong, but the actual evidence is circumstantial. No confession, no witnesses, just suspicious timing and ambiguous song lyrics. Executing a teenage girl on circumstantial evidence while international press is watching is bad optics. On April 20th, 1942, Zimmerman receives new orders. Commute the execution. 20 years hard labor. Krystyna is transferred to Ravensbrück concentration camp. She's assigned to the munitions factory. 12-hour shifts assembling artillery shells. The work is deliberately brutal. Most prisoners don't survive more than 2 years. Krystyna survives 4. April 1942 to April 1945. She endures starvation, disease, routine beatings. She watches thousands die. But she survives because she has something most prisoners lose: purpose. Every day she lives is another day. The Germans didn't break her. Every shell she assembles, she sabotages. Subtle defects, missing components, improper assembly. She estimates she sabotages 600 artillery shells during her imprisonment. Shells that will misfire, jam, or explode prematurely. It's not dramatic resistance, but it's resistance. On April 30th, 1945, Soviet forces liberate Ravensbrück. Krystyna weighs 41 kilograms. She's 19 years old but looks 50. She's missing 3 teeth. She has permanent nerve damage in her left hand from frostbite, but she's alive. The war ends. Poland is liberated, then immediately occupied by the Soviets. It's not the freedom Krystyna fought for, but it's something. She returns to Warsaw in June 1945. The city is ruins, 85% destroyed. Her family's apartment building is rubble. Everyone she knew is dead or scattered. She has nothing. The Polish government in exile, now powerless, tries to document resistance activities. They interview survivors, compile records, try to preserve history before the Soviets erase it. A historian named John Karski interviews Krystyna in August 1945. Tell me about your resistance work. I worked at a textile factory. I passed intelligence. How? I sang songs. Songs? Karski looks confused. I encoded intelligence into folk song lyrics. I performed them publicly. Resistance listeners decoded the information. Karski stares at her. That's extraordinary. How many pieces of intelligence did you transmit? I don't know exactly. More than 200. Over 3 years. And the Germans never detected the method? They knew there was a leak. They arrested me eventually. But they never understood how the system worked. Karski takes notes frantically. This needs to be documented. You're a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm someone who survived. That's all. The interview becomes part of the historical record, but it's buried. The Soviet occupation of Poland means resistance history is suppressed. Celebrating Polish Home Army activities is politically dangerous. The Soviets want credit for liberation. They don't want stories about Polish resistance members who fought Germans while Soviets were signing non-aggression pacts. Krystyna's story disappears into archives. After the war, Krystyna tries to rebuild. She works as a seamstress. She marries in 1948, a fellow resistance survivor. They have 2 children. She never talks about the war. When her children ask, she says, "I worked in a factory. Nothing special." In 1956, during the brief political thaw in Poland, a journalist discovers Krystyna's story in military archives. He writes an article for a Polish newspaper, The Girl Who Sang Intelligence. The article describes her method, her arrest, her survival. It creates a small sensation. Readers are fascinated. The idea of encoding intelligence into folk songs captures imagination. But Krystyna refuses interviews. She doesn't want attention. In 1968, a British intelligence historian researching Polish resistance operations discovers references to Krystyna's work. He contacts her, asking for details. She declines. "It was a long time ago. I don't remember much." But the historian persists. He compiles documentation. Gestapo interrogation records, Polish Home Army after-action reports, testimony from other survivors. He publishes a paper in 1971, Covert Communication Methods in Occupied Poland, a case study. Krystyna's method is analyzed academically. Intelligence professionals are stunned. The simplicity, the audacity, the effectiveness. Hiding intelligence in plain sight. Using cultural material the occupiers dismiss as harmless. Modern intelligence agencies study her technique, not because they'll use folk songs, but because the principle is timeless. The best covers are the ones that seem too obvious to be covers. In 1989, Poland regains independence. The communist government falls. Archives open. A new generation discovers resistance history. Krystyna's story is rediscovered. She's invited to speak at schools, at universities, at veteran gatherings. She's 64 years old. She finally agrees. At a Warsaw University lecture in 1990, a student asks, "Were you afraid?" "Terrified. Every single day." "Then why did you do it?" "Because someone had to. The Germans were destroying my country. I had information they needed. Passing that information was the only way I could fight back." Another student asks, "Do you think what you did mattered?" "In the moment, I didn't know. I just hoped it did. Now looking back, I know it saved lives." That's enough. Krystyna Skarbek dies in 1998 at age 73. Her obituary appears in major Polish newspapers and several international publications. The New York Times runs a brief piece, "Polish Resistance Heroine Dies." The obituary mentions her innovative intelligence technique. But most people still don't know her name. In 2003, the Polish government posthumously awards Krystyna the Order of Polonia Restituta, one of Poland's highest civilian honors. In 2008, a Polish folk music ensemble releases an album titled Songs of Resistance. It includes reconstructions of Krystyna's encoded songs, with explanations of how the intelligence was hidden in the lyrics. Music historians analyze the technique. It's brilliant in its simplicity. The melodies are traditional. The poetry sounds authentic. Only listeners with the code book could extract the intelligence. In 2012, British intelligence services declassify documents related to Polish resistance operations. Among them are reports specifically mentioning the girl who sings and her intelligence contributions. One report, dated October 1942, states, source Nightingale, a code name, continues to provide high-quality tactical intelligence through unconventional methods. Reliability is excellent. Recommend continued support. In 2015, a Polish documentary filmmaker produces a film about Krystyna's life. The Girl Who Sang Secrets premieres at the Warsaw Film Festival. It wins awards. It introduces her story to a new generation. Young people are amazed. You could hide intelligence in song lyrics, historians explain. In an era before digital communication, before sophisticated encryption, resistance fighters used whatever tools they had. Krystyna had a voice and knowledge of folk music. She weaponized them. In 2018, the CIA's Intelligence Museum in Washington, D.C., includes Krystyna's story in an exhibit on unconventional intelligence methods. The exhibit text reads, "Effective intelligence work requires creativity, courage, and understanding of cultural context." Krystyna Skarbek demonstrated all three. Today, Krystyna's technique is taught in intelligence training programs as an example of low-tech, high-impact tradecraft. Students learn the fundamental lesson. The best cover is one that aligns with cultural expectations. A teenage girl singing folk songs in occupied Poland wasn't suspicious. It was normal, expected, comforting, and that made it perfect. The final assessment of Krystyna's intelligence work comes from a 2020 Polish military intelligence study. Over 30 months, Krystyna Skarbek transmitted approximately 220 pieces of tactical and operational intelligence. This intelligence contributed to 47 successful resistance operations, including 13 supply convoy ambushes, 8 rail line sabotages, 11 intelligence gathering missions, and 15 personnel extraction operations. Conservative casualty analysis suggests these operations prevented an estimated 1,800 German-inflicted Polish casualties and accelerated liberation operations by approximately 40 days in the Warsaw region. Her method, while simple, was extraordinarily effective precisely because of its simplicity. The Germans were searching for sophisticated codes, not cultural performances. Krystyna Skarbek's contribution to the Polish resistance effort represents one of the most successful individual intelligence operations of World War II. The numbers are stark. 1 teenage girl, 3 years of intelligence work, 220 transmissions, 47 operations, 1,800 lives, all hidden in songs about birds and rivers and forests. Because sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a bomb. Sometimes it's a voice singing words that mean more than they seem. Krystyna Skarbek never wanted to be a hero. She just wanted to fight back with the only tools she had: a good memory, a clear voice, and the courage to sing when silence would have been safer.